It was just past midnight when Jacob sat in his room, the soft glow of his desk lamp casting elongated shadows across the floor. The quiet hum of the air conditioner was the only sound in the otherwise still house. He'd always preferred the solitude of the night, where thoughts could run wild without interruption. But tonight, something felt off. There was an unfamiliar tension in the air, a kind of heaviness that he couldn't shake. Jacob rubbed his eyes and looked at the clock again. The time seemed to crawl. His mind was still racing from the strange events earlier that day. A long meeting at work, a brief encounter with an old friend, and the subtle but undeniable feeling that something had changed. He couldn't put his finger on it. Just as he leaned back in his chair, trying to relax, he heard a noise, soft, almost imperceptible, like the sound of a door creaking open. His heart skipped a beat. The only other person in the house at this hour was Elena, his maid. She usually kept to her quarters after finishing her chores, and there was no reason for her to be up now. His eyes flicked to the door of his bedroom, where the soft glow of light from the hallway barely touched the frame. The sound grew clearer now, a light shuffle, a step too heavy for someone trying to be discreet. Jacob sat up straight, his senses sharpening. "Elena," he called out, his voice low but clear in the silent room. There was no reply, but the footsteps continued, growing closer. His pulse quickened. It wasn't like Elena to sneak around, especially not at this hour. But what could she possibly be doing? The door creaked open slowly, and Jacob's breath caught in his throat as a shadow crossed the threshold. Elena stood there, her face a mask of shock. Her dark eyes widened as they scanned the room, falling on him sitting at his desk. For a moment, there was silence. Jacob's mind raced, but his body remained still, waiting for her to speak, to explain why she was here at this hour. But Elena didn't speak. Her eyes flickered nervously, her gaze shifting between the desk, the window, and then back to him. Elena? Jacob finally broke the silence, his voice laced with confusion. "What's going on? Why are you here?" Elena swallowed hard, her lips parting as if to say something, but no words came out. Her hand trembled slightly as she gripped the doorframe, as if she needed it for support. Jacob could see the subtle fear in her expression, the tension in her posture. This was not the usual maid who quietly moved about her work. Something was wrong. Then, without warning, she stepped inside the room, her movements jerky and uncertain. Her eyes locked onto something behind him, a strange, almost frantic look in her eyes. "Jacob, I saw something," she muttered, barely above a whisper. I wasn't supposed to see it." Jacob's stomach churned. "What did you see?" Her words hung in the air like a warning, but her eyes seemed to beg him to understand. She was frightened. She wasn't just startled by his presence. She was terrified of something else, something she hadn't told him about. "Please, you need to listen to me," Elena continued, her voice shaking now. She took a hesitant step closer to him, her eyes darting nervously toward the window. "You don't know what's been happening here. You don't know what's been hidden in this house." Jacob stood up from his chair, his heart pounding in his chest. "What do you mean? What's been hidden?" Eleanor's gaze flickered to the side, and for a moment it seemed as if she were listening for something, waiting for a sound, a signal that wasn't there. Then she looked back at him, her eyes wide with fear. "I shouldn't have come in here, but I couldn't stop myself." Her voice faltered. "I saw something in your room, something I didn't even know existed. I don't know how to explain it, but I think it's been here for a long time. It's not normal." Jacob felt a chill crawl up his spine. He could barely understand what she was saying, but one thing was clear. Elena was afraid. The kind of fear that goes deeper than just a bad feeling. It was terror. "What are you talking about?" Jacob asked, his voice rising, though he tried to keep it steady. What did you see?" She shook her head frantically, as if she couldn't put it into words. Then, as if a realization hit her, she took a step back, glancing toward the window. "Once more, I have to go," she said, her voice now high-pitched with panic. "You don't understand. You don't understand. I shouldn't have seen it. I shouldn't have come in here." Before Jacob could stop her, she bolted from the room, slamming the door behind her. For a moment he stood there, stunned. His heart was still racing, and his mind was spinning. What in the world was happening? Why had Elena reacted like that? His first instinct was to go after her, to make sure she was okay, but something stopped him. The room felt different now. The air had thickened, as if it were heavy with an invisible presence. Jacob's eyes scanned the room, searching for any sign of what she might have seen, but everything appeared normal. The desk, the chair, the window, nothing had changed. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. He walked to the window, his fingers brushing the curtains as he peered outside. The night was still, the moon casting a pale light over the garden. There was nothing unusual, nothing to suggest that anything had happened, yet the unease inside him refused to dissipate. He turned back to the room, his gaze falling on the dresser against the wall. That's when he saw it. At the far corner of the room, near the ceiling, there was a faint glowing mark, almost imperceptible, like a symbol burned into the wall. Jacob's breath caught in his throat. How had he never noticed it before? It wasn't there earlier, he was sure of it, and yet it was there now, a faint, alien-like symbol glowing softly in the corner of his room. The same symbol Elena had been so afraid of. His mind raced. This was no accident. Whatever Elena had seen, whatever she had stumbled upon, was no mistake. And now Jacob was part of something far bigger than he could have ever imagined. He stepped closer to the glowing mark, his hand trembling as he reached for it. The moment his fingers touched the wall, a strange energy pulsed through his body. Suddenly, there was a loud knock at the door. The knock at the door echoed in Jacob's ears, jolting him from his trance. His hand, still trembling from the brief touch of the glowing symbol on the wall, shot back as though burned. For a moment, he simply stared at the door, his mind a chaotic whirlwind of confusion and questions. What was that symbol? What did Elena see? Why had she been so frightened? He glanced over at the window once more. The faint glow was still there, but now it seemed to flicker with an unsettling intensity, as if responding to his presence. Was it alive? A second knock, louder this time, snapped him back to reality. The visitor outside wasn't going to wait forever. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself, and walked toward the door. Opening it cautiously, Jacob was met with the sight of Elena standing in the hallway. She was visibly shaken, her eyes wide with panic, but her posture was resolute, as if she had made a decision. "Jacob," she whispered, glancing over her shoulder, as if checking for anyone listening. "We need to talk, now." Jacob stepped aside, motioning for her to come in. He could see the fear in her eyes, but there was also something else, an urgency, a sense that time was running out. As Eleanor entered the room, she quickly shut the door behind her, locking it with an anxious look on her face. She turned toward Jacob, but before she could speak, he interrupted. "Elena, what the hell is going on? What did you see?" His voice was tense, the questions pressing on him, demanding answers. Elena's gaze flickered to the glowing symbol on the wall. Her lips parted, but she didn't immediately speak. Instead, she walked to the far side of the room, her eyes scanning the walls, as though looking for something, or someone. "I didn't want to believe it at first," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought it was all just in my head. But now I don't know what to think. I can't pretend I didn't see it. I can't pretend I didn't feel it." Jacob frowned, trying to understand. "What did you see? What did you feel?" Elena took a deep breath, her eyes welling with tears. "I saw a mark, just like the one on your wall." She paused, trying to find the right words. "It's not just any mark, Jacob. It's a symbol, a signal, a message from them." Jacob's stomach tightened. "From who?" "From the aliens," Elena whispered, her voice quivering. "They've been watching us, watching you." Jacob's head spun. "Aliens? Are you serious? This is insane." Elena nodded, her hands trembling. "I never wanted to tell you, but I can't keep this from you anymore. You're involved in something much bigger than you realize. You've been marked, Jacob, marked by them." Jacob took a step back, his mind racing. Was this some kind of joke? Was Elena just losing it? But her expression, the fear in her eyes, told him otherwise. He swallowed hard. "But I don't remember anything. I've lived here my whole life, and I've never seen anything like this. How could this symbol be connected to me?" Elena's face grew pale, and she lowered her voice. "It's not just the symbol, Jacob. It's you. You're part of something. You're part of their plan." Jacob's heart hammered in his chest. "What plan? What are you talking about?" "I've been sent here to watch over you," Elena continued, her voice trembling. "At first, I didn't understand why I was chosen, but now I think I do. You're not just any human. You're different. You're important. And that symbol," she pointed to the glowing mark on the wall, "is a marker, a signal that they've found you." "Found me?" Jacob asked, incredulous. "I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. You're telling me aliens have been watching me all this time?" Elena nodded slowly. "Yes, and not just you. This house, this place. It's been a beacon for them. They've been waiting for something, for you to—" Suddenly Elena stopped mid-sentence, her eyes widening with alarm. She reached for Jacob's arm and pulled him away from the wall, her grip tight. "Get down!" she hissed. Jacob didn't question her. He dropped to the floor just as the room seemed to shudder. A high-pitched sound filled the air, so sharp it made his ears ring. The ground beneath him seemed to vibrate as if something immense was moving through the walls. Then, as quickly as it had begun, the noise stopped. The room was still again. But something had changed. Something was different now. The air felt heavier, charged, as if the atmosphere itself had thickened. Jacob looked up at Elena, his voice a whisper. "What was that?" "I knew it," Elena breathed, her face pale. "They've found us." "Who has?" Jacob demanded, panic creeping into his voice. "The aliens," Elena replied, her voice steady but filled with urgency. "They're here, and they're coming for you." Before Jacob could ask another question, a flash of light lit up the room. It wasn't the glow of the symbol this time, but something far more intense, far more unnatural. The light seemed to pulse, flicker, and then coalesce into a shape, an outline, shimmering in the air like heat waves rising from the pavement. The light began to solidify, and Jacob's heart dropped into his stomach. He had no idea what was happening, but instinct told him that it wasn't good. He tried to back away, but his legs felt like lead, as if they refused to move. Then the light took form. It wasn't human. Jacob could tell that much immediately. It was tall, its silhouette distorted, with long limbs and a head that was too large for its body. Its features were obscured by the shifting light, but its presence was undeniable. For a moment, there was silence. The figure simply stood there, watching them, and then, in a voice that echoed in Jacob's mind, the alien spoke. "Jacob," it said, its voice a chilling combination of deep resonance and sharp metallic tones. "You have been chosen." Elena stepped forward, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and recognition. "No," she whispered. "No, not yet. He's not ready." The alien tilted its head as if considering her words. Then it turned its gaze back to Jacob. "You are the key," it said, its voice sending a shiver down his spine. and you will join us, whether you are ready or not." Jacob's world tilted. He couldn't breathe, he couldn't think. All he could do was stare at the alien before him, his heart hammering in his chest. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in, as though the space itself was rejecting the presence of this creature. But just as quickly as the alien had appeared, it disappeared, vanishing into the air with a soft crackle, leaving only the lingering echo of its words. Jacob was left standing there, frozen, his mind struggling to process what had just happened. Elena was trembling beside him, her face ashen. "We have to leave," she said urgently. "They're coming for you, Jacob. They're not going to stop, not until they have you." Jacob stared at her, his mind reeling. "I don't understand," he whispered. "Why me? Why is this happening?" Elena's eyes softened for a moment, a fleeting look of sympathy crossing her face. But it quickly faded, replaced by a look of resolve. "You're part of something much bigger than you can understand, and you're going to have to make a choice that could change everything." Jacob's head spun. Nothing made sense. Nothing about this was real. But the alien's words echoed in his mind, and the mark on the wall seemed to burn into his vision. "You've been chosen." The weight of it hung in the air, suffocating him. He was just a man. A simple man living in a small house. How could he be chosen for anything, let alone something so otherworldly? Elena grabbed his arm. "Come on, we have to go now. It's the only chance you have." But as they moved toward the door, Jacob caught a glimpse of the symbol on the wall once more. This time, it was no longer faint. It burned with a bright white light, and Jacob knew deep down that there was no turning back now. The night seemed endless as Jacob sat, staring at the glowing symbol on his bedroom wall. The soft light pulsed rhythmically, as though breathing, drawing him in with a magnetic pull. His heart raced with confusion, disbelief, and fear. What had he just witnessed? The alien, its voice, its presence, echoed in his mind, leaving him. In a state of numbness, Elena stood by the window, her posture rigid, her eyes scanning the dark street outside. "They'll be back," she said, her voice low and tense. "And when they come, Jacob, it won't just be the alien that you'll have to worry about." Jacob didn't know how to respond. He barely understood what was happening to him. Why had they chosen him? Why now? The weight of Elena's words sank into his chest like a stone. He was part of something. He didn't know what, but he knew it wasn't anything he could ever have imagined. "I don't get it, Elena," he muttered, his voice shaking. "What do they want with me? What am I supposed to do?" Elena turned toward him, her face drawn and weary. "I don't know all the details, but I know enough to tell you that you've been marked, and the symbol on your wall is just the beginning. You're part of a plan that's been in motion for a long time. You were never meant to live a normal life." "Marked? For what?" Jacob asked, his voice rising in desperation. She shook her head, her expression grim. "I don't know, but I do know that your life is no longer your own. Not with that symbol on the wall, not with what's coming." Jacob looked at the symbol again. It was no longer just a glowing mark. It felt like a doorway, something that connected him to another world, one that he didn't understand, but was now undeniably part of. "I can't stay here," he said suddenly, the thought hitting him like a wave. "I can't just sit around waiting for them to come back." Elena hesitated for a moment, her eyes flickering with uncertainty. "You're right, but you're also wrong. Running won't help you. They'll find you wherever you go. You can't escape this." Jacob felt a knot form in his stomach. "Then what am I supposed to do? Just sit here and wait to be chosen for whatever it is they want?" "No," Elena replied firmly. "You don't wait, you fight back. We need to figure out what they want from you and how to stop them from taking it." Jacob's heart pounded in his chest. The alien's words echoed in his mind again. "You are the key." He didn't know what that meant, but he knew it wasn't good. Nothing about this felt like a gift. Before he could say anything else, There was a loud knock at the door. Elena immediately stiffened, her eyes widening in fear. Jacob's stomach lurched. Whoever was outside didn't seem like someone he wanted to see right now. He moved toward the door, slowly, as if in a trance, his pulse racing. His hand hovered over the handle, but before he could open it, Elena grabbed his arm, pulling him back. "No," she whispered urgently. "Don't open it. We're not alone anymore." Jacob turned to her, confusion in his eyes. "What do you mean? Who else could be here?" She didn't answer. Instead, she motioned for him to stay quiet, and the two of them huddled in the corner of the room, listening intently to the sounds outside. "Tishil." Knock came again, but this time it was accompanied by a low, guttural sound. Something alien, something unearthly. Jacob's blood ran cold. The sound was coming from the hallway just outside the door. "It's them," Elena said, her voice trembling. "They've found us." Jacob looked around the room, searching for anything that could help him. His mind raced, but no plan formed. He could hear his heart thudding in his ears. The door rattled slightly as something, or someone, pressed against it, a quiet scraping sound following. Suddenly, the door flew open with terrifying force, slamming against the wall. Jacob's breath caught in his throat. There, standing in the doorway, was the alien from before. But it wasn't alone. Behind it stood two more figures, their features just as unsettling, their bodies tall and elongated. Their skin shimmered, almost translucent, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light. They weren't human, they weren't even close. Jacob's legs went weak beneath him. He tried to move, but it was as if his body refused to cooperate. Elena grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the corner of the room, away from the aliens. "They won't hurt you," Elena whispered urgently. "Not yet, but they will if you don't listen." The aliens didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their presence was overwhelming, suffocating. Jacob felt like his very soul was being examined, analyzed and catalogued by their piercing gaze. The leader of the group, the same one who had spoken to Jacob earlier, took a step forward, its form flickering slightly as if it was being pulled between dimensions. "Jacob," the alien said, its voice a low, reverberating hum. "It's time to fulfill your purpose." Jacob swallowed hard. "I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't want any part of this." "You have no choice," the alien replied, its voice now colder, more insistent. "You are the key. You are the one we've been waiting for. You will unlock what has been hidden for eons." Elena stepped forward, her face tense. "Jacob, listen to me. The symbol on the wall isn't just a signal. It's a doorway. It's how they reach us, how they access us. The sooner you accept this, the sooner we can figure out how to stop them from taking what they want." Jacob's mind reeled. A doorway, the symbol. Was that what the aliens had been waiting for all along? He looked back at the wall, where the symbol still glowed, its light now more intense, more focused. It was no longer just a decoration. It was a conduit, a link between worlds. The alien leader stepped closer, its face unreadable, its eyes dark, pools of endless depth. "You must understand, Jacob. We are not here to harm you. We are here to guide you, to help you fulfill your destiny." Jacob shook his head, stepping back. "I don't want any part of this. I'm just a regular guy. I don't even know why I'm—" The alien raised a hand, and suddenly Jacob's voice was silenced. He tried to speak, to move, but his body was frozen in place. "We are beyond the realm of human understanding," the alien continued, its voice echoing in Jacob's mind. "You cannot comprehend what is at stake, but you will. In time, you will." Jacob's vision blurred, the air thickening around him. He could hear Elena's voice, faint and distant, but it was drowned out by the pressure building in his head. The room seemed to close in on him, the walls constricting, the floor shifting beneath him. Suddenly the pressure lifted, and Jacob could breathe again. The aliens were gone, vanished into thin air as if they had never been there at all. But the symbol on the wall remained, glowing brighter than ever. Elena rushed to his side, her eyes wide with fear. "Jacob, are you okay?" Jacob swallowed hard, his throat dry. "What just happened? Where did they go? What do they want from me?" Elena looked at him with a mixture of pity and fear. "They're not going anywhere. They'll be back, and next time they'll take you. They'll force you to open the doorway. They'll use you to unlock something." Jacob's mind spun. What doorway? What was it they were trying to unlock? And why him? As the night stretched on, the only thing Jacob knew for certain was that his life had irrevocably changed. There was no going back, and the aliens, whatever their plan, would stop at nothing to see it through. The days following the encounter with the aliens were a blur of confusion and dread. Jacob couldn't shake the feeling that his world had cracked open, revealing a hidden truth he was ill-equipped to understand. He couldn't sleep, couldn't think clearly. His mind was constantly racing, haunted by the memory of the glowing symbol and the aliens' chilling words. "And they'll be back," Elena had warned him, and that warning echoed in his mind every waking moment. The days turned to weeks, and the nagging sense of inevitability only grew. No matter how hard Jacob tried to resume some semblance of normalcy, the world had changed. The symbol on his wall remained, its eerie glow a constant reminder of the events that had unfolded. And every time Jacob looked at it, a weight settled in his chest, as though it were calling to him, urging him to act, to open the door. "Why me?" Jacob asked aloud one night, staring at the symbol as if it could provide answers. Why did they choose me? Elena had become his only tether to reality. She had been right there with him during the alien visitation, and since then she'd stayed by his side, offering advice and reassurance, even though she seemed to be struggling with her own doubts. But despite her help, Jacob could feel the growing sense of isolation. No one else knew what he was going through. No one else could understand the fear gnawing at him from the inside. It was late one evening when things took a turn. Jacob was sitting in his room, trying to focus on his work, when he heard a noise, a faint tapping at the window. He froze. His heartbeat quickened. It was too late for anyone to be outside, too late for anything to be normal. He crept toward the window, cautious, as though approaching something that might spring to life at any moment. He pulled back the curtains, his breath catching in his throat as his eyes locked onto a figure. Standing on the other side, a woman. She was dressed in dark clothes, her face obscured by a hood, but there was something undeniably familiar about her. "Elena," Jacob whispered, almost afraid to speak the name. The woman shook her head, then raised a hand to her lips in a silencing gesture. She mouthed a word, one that Jacob could barely make out in the darkness. "Run." Jacob's heart skipped a beat. He glanced over his shoulder, but there was no sign of Elena. She must have stepped out earlier, perhaps to grab some food or take a walk. He was alone, left to confront whatever this mysterious figure was. He opened the window slowly, making sure no one else could hear. "Who are you?" he whispered. The woman didn't answer immediately. She glanced nervously down the street before turning back to him, her voice barely a whisper. "You need to listen to me, Jacob. You need to leave now. They're coming." His blood ran cold. "Who's coming?" Her eyes widened. "The aliens and the others?" The others. The words hung in the air like a silent threat. Who were these others? What did they want? And why was this woman who seemed to know so much warning him? "You don't have much time," she continued. "There's a place, a hidden location, far from here. It's your only chance. You need to go there before it's too late." Jacob shook his head in confusion. "What's happening? What do you know about all of this?" The woman hesitated, glancing over her shoulder again. "I can't explain everything, but I know they're after you. You're a part of something bigger than you understand. And the only way to survive is to keep moving. to keep running until you find the truth." She turned quickly, her footsteps light but urgent, as she disappeared into the night. Jacob stood frozen at the window, his mind racing. He barely understood what she had said, but the fear in her eyes, the urgency in her voice, it was enough to send a chill down his spine. Whoever they were, it was clear they were coming for him. And no matter how much he wanted to resist, he knew she was right. He couldn't stay here. Not anymore. The next morning, he packed what little he could carry. The fear, the uncertainty, the constant pressure, it had all built up to this moment. Elena had told him to fight, to understand his role in all of this. But how could he when he didn't even know what the fight was? With the symbol still glowing faintly on his wall, Jacob didn't know where to go. But he knew he couldn't stay. The alien presence was too real, and the woman's warning lingered in his mind. He grabbed his keys and left, heading out the door, determined to follow the only lead he had, the hidden location. The woman had told him to find a place, somewhere hidden far from the city, where he would be safe. But it wasn't just about safety. Jacob felt it in his gut. This was his only chance to understand what was happening to him. What was the symbol? Why was he the key? The journey was long. He didn't know where he was headed, but he knew he had to keep moving. It wasn't just about escaping the aliens anymore. It was about survival. Every part of him screamed for answers, and the only way to get them was to find this place. Whatever it was. He drove for hours, the road stretching. Out before him, empty and desolate. There was no turning back now. He had crossed a line, a point of no return. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Jacob arrived at the outskirts of a small town. There was nothing remarkable about it, just a sleepy place with winding roads and old buildings. But something about it seemed off, like he wasn't supposed to be here. He parked the car in a secluded spot and stepped out, his senses on high alert. It was quiet, too quiet. The town was eerily empty, as though the people had vanished overnight. He followed the directions the woman had given him, heading toward the edge of the town. There, hidden behind overgrown foliage, was an old, abandoned building. It was a warehouse. Of some sort, its exterior weathered and decayed, but it still stood, standing like a forgotten relic. Jacob hesitated, unsure of what he was walking into. But he had come this far, and he wasn't turning back now. As he stepped inside, the air felt different, charged with something. He couldn't explain it, but he felt it in his bones. This place was significant. He made his way through the dark corridors of the warehouse, the only sound the soft scrape of his shoes against the floor. There were no signs of life, no movement, but he could sense that something or someone was watching him. It wasn't until he reached the back of the warehouse that he found what he was looking for. A large, circular object stood in the center of the room, covered by a tarp. It was unlike anything Jacob had ever seen. It hummed softly, as if alive, and a faint blue light emanated from beneath the covering. Jacob stepped closer, his heart pounding in his chest. This was it. This was what the aliens had been waiting for. This was the doorway. The moment his fingers brushed against the tarp, a surge of energy coursed through him. He gasped, stepping back, his mind reeling as a vision flashed before his eyes. He saw the alien leader, its cold, dark eyes staring at him. It spoke, but this time its voice wasn't just in his head. It was in the room with him, reverberating through the air. "Jacob," it said, its voice echoing, "you have unlocked the doorway. Now you will fulfill your purpose." Jacob's heart pounded in his chest as the alien voice reverberated through the dim, abandoned warehouse. The words, "his purpose," sent a chill through him. He had come this far, but now he was faced with something bigger than himself. The glowing doorway in front of him seemed to pulse with an energy that defied logic. It wasn't just an alien artifact, it was something more. The air felt thick, charged with anticipation. Jacob wanted to run, to escape, but his feet felt rooted to the floor. The vision of the alien leader still echoed in his mind, its dark eyes staring into his soul. The words, "You will fulfill your purpose," weren't just a command. They were a prophecy. A cold sweat dripped down Jacob's back as he stepped forward, drawn inexplicably to the mysterious object. His fingers hovered over the tarp that covered the device. He had no idea what would happen if he uncovered it, if he activated it, but he knew one thing: there was no turning back. He'd come too far to walk away now. Taking a deep breath, Jacob pulled the tarp away, exposing the shimmering device beneath. At first glance, it appeared like some sort of metallic portal, circular in shape, with glowing symbols etched into its surface, symbols that matched the one on his wall. The blue light pulsated with an eerie rhythm, as though it was alive, responding to his presence. Without thinking, Jacob reached out, touching the cold metal. The moment his hand made contact, the ground beneath him trembled. The air crackled with static. His entire body went rigid, as though every nerve was being jolted with electricity. His vision blurred, and for a moment he couldn't tell if he was standing in the warehouse or floating in some unknown dimension. The blue light enveloped him, and the sensation of being pulled somewhere far away was overwhelming. Then, as suddenly as it began, the sensation stopped. Jacob stumbled back, disoriented, his heart still racing. The device was silent now, the glowing symbols fading. The room around him was still and quiet, but something was different. Jacob blinked and looked around, his mind still reeling from what had just happened. He could no longer hear the hum of the alien device or feel the presence of the alien leader. He was alone. It took him a moment to gather his bearings. His hand still tingled where it had touched the device. He took a step forward, his footsteps echoing in the warehouse. It wasn't until he reached the center of the room that he realized something terrifying. The warehouse wasn't empty anymore. The shadows in the corners of the room shifted, and figures began to emerge from the darkness. They were humanoid, but their features were distorted, alien. Their eyes glowed with a soft, eerie light. There were 6 of them, standing in a loose formation around Jacob, their movements slow, deliberate. One of them stepped forward, a tall figure with elongated limbs and a sleek silver exoskeleton that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. Its face was smooth and featureless, but its eyes, those glowing, haunting eyes, stared directly at Jacob. "You have activated the portal." The alien's voice was deep and resonant, vibrating in the air around Jacob. "You have opened the path." Jacob stood frozen, unable to speak. He was terrified, but he couldn't move. His mind was racing, trying to comprehend what was happening. The portal, the symbol, the device, it was all part of something larger than he could understand. The alien continued, its voice calm but forceful. "You are the one we have been waiting for, the one chosen to bridge the gap between worlds." Jacob's thoughts spun in confusion. "What do you mean?" he managed to say, his voice hoarse. "I'm not one of you, I'm just a human. I don't know what's going on." The alien's glowing eyes seemed to pierce through him. "You are not just a human, you are a part of the plan. Your DNA, your very existence, has been intertwined with the fate of your world. And now you have unlocked the key to the future." Jacob shook his head, his mind struggling to catch up with the alien's words. This can't be real." "It is," the alien said simply. "What you have touched is no mere device. It is a link between dimensions, a door to what you would call the future. And through this portal, you will travel far beyond the reaches of your planet. You will see things that no human has ever seen, things that will change the course of your species." Jacob took a step back, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts. The future. He had barely wrapped his mind around the idea of alien life, let alone the concept of a portal to the future. But the alien was insistent. "You are the bridge. You will help us achieve what has been prophesied. The war, the struggle, it is coming, and only you can stop it." A cold chill ran through Jacob as the words echoed in his mind. "A war," he whispered. "What do you mean? What's happening?" The alien didn't answer directly. Instead, it gestured to the other figures, who moved closer, circling Jacob. "There is much you do not understand," it said, "but time is running out. We need you to be ready. You must make a choice." Jacob's heart skipped a beat. A choice? What kind of choice? He was already in the middle of something he didn't understand, something beyond anything he had ever imagined. How could he be expected to make a choice? The alien's eyes narrowed. "The path ahead is not easy. The choice is yours, Jacob. You can walk through the portal and learn the truth, but you will leave your old life behind. Or you can choose to stay, to forget what you've learned, to return to the safety of your world. But that path will only lead to destruction." A surge of panic rushed through Jacob. The weight of the decision was suffocating. What was the right choice? The aliens were offering him something: knowledge, power, a chance to change the course of history. But at what? A cost. He thought of Elena, his family, the life he had left behind. He wasn't sure he could leave all of that behind. But then he remembered the warning. The aliens were coming. The danger was real. Jacob looked at the portal, his heart pounding. What did he want? What did he need to do? Before he could respond, the alien spoke again, its voice calm but unwavering. "You must decide. There is no middle ground. The future awaits, but it will not wait for long." Jacob's mind was in chaos. He could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on him like a heavy stone. But deep down, he knew there was only one answer. With a final, shaky breath, Jacob made his choice. The silence in the warehouse was deafening. Jacob stood frozen in the center, his mind racing, his heart hammering in his chest. The portal before him seemed to pulse with a life of its own, drawing him in with its shimmering light. The alien figures circled around him, their glowing eyes never leaving his face. Their presence felt overwhelming, as though the weight of the entire universe rested on his shoulders. "You have made your choice," the leader of the aliens said, its voice cold and commanding. The rest of the group stepped back, leaving Jacob standing alone before the glowing portal. Jacob's throat tightened as he tried to steady his breath. His hands trembled at his sides, unsure of what to do. He had been offered two paths, one leading to an unknown future, and the other to the destruction of everything he knew. The stakes had never been higher, and every fiber of his being was pulling him in different directions. Was he ready for what lay beyond the portal? Was he truly prepared to sacrifice everything, his family, his life, his humanity, for a future that was as uncertain as the stars? He looked at the aliens again. They had been clear in their explanation. The war they spoke of wasn't some distant possibility. It was imminent. The fate of not just Earth, but all of humanity rested in his hands. If he chose to walk through the portal, he would be given the knowledge and power to change the course of history. He would witness things that no human had ever dreamed of, things that would alter his very understanding of life. But the cost was so high. Jacob thought of Elena, the woman he loved and the life he had left behind. He thought of his family, his friends, the world he knew. Could he truly leave all of that behind for something so uncertain, something that could tear apart the fabric of everything he had ever known? He swallowed hard, struggling to keep his composure. The alien leader's eyes bored into him, waiting for his decision. "You must decide," the alien intoned. "The war approaches. You can no longer afford to hesitate." Jacob felt the pressure, mounting, suffocating him. It was too much to bear. He thought back to the first moment he had seen the glowing symbol on his wall, to the strange series of events that had led him here. Everything had seemed like a nightmare at first, but now he understood. The aliens, the glowing symbol, the portal. It was all part of something larger, something that couldn't be ignored. For a brief moment, Jacob thought about turning around and walking away. The idea of staying in the safety of his old life, of continuing to live without knowing the truth, was appealing. But as he glanced at the alien leader, he remembered its words. Only you can stop it. The fate of his world depended on him, and he could not, would not, ignore that responsibility. Jacob took a deep breath. "I will go," he said, his voice steady but resolute. The alien leader nodded slowly, its expression unreadable. Without a word, it stepped aside, allowing Jacob to approach the portal. The air seemed to grow heavier with each step he took. The light from the portal intensified, bathing everything in its eerie glow. Jacob hesitated for a moment, the enormity of his decision hitting him once again. He was about to step into the unknown, to embrace a future that was as uncertain as the stars themselves. But in that moment, he realized something. This wasn't just about him. This wasn't about his fear or his doubts. This was about humanity. This was about the survival of his world. With that thought in mind, Jacob stepped forward. As soon as his foot crossed the threshold of the portal, everything around him exploded into light. The world around him dissolved, as though reality itself had been peeled away. He felt his body being stretched, pulled, and compressed in ways he couldn't comprehend. Time and space warped around him, and for a brief moment he felt like he was falling through endless layers of existence. Then, as suddenly as it began, the sensation stopped. Jacob blinked, disoriented, as he found himself standing in a completely different place. Gone were the familiar walls of the warehouse, the cold metallic structure of the alien device. He was surrounded by a vast, open landscape that stretched endlessly before him. The sky above was a deep shade of purple, dotted with stars unlike anything he had ever seen. The air was thick and humid, and the ground beneath his feet felt soft, almost like sand. The landscape was alien, unfamiliar, yet somehow it felt strangely inviting. For a moment, Jacob couldn't speak. He simply stood there, taking in the scene around him. His mind was still trying to process what had just happened. He had stepped through the portal and emerged in another world, another dimension, perhaps. As he stood there, trying to regain his bearings, the alien leader appeared beside him. The other figures, who had been watching silently, stepped forward as well. "This is the future," the alien leader said, its voice distant, almost reverent. "This is where the path will lead." Jacob turned to face the leader. "Is this the future of Earth?" he asked, his voice trembling with uncertainty. The alien leader nodded. "Not just Earth. This is the future of all the worlds, the war we spoke of. This is where it will begin." Jacob's stomach churned as the weight of the alien's words settled in. The landscape around him, though serene, felt like a warning. This future was fragile. The tension in the air was palpable. "What war?" Jacob asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The alien leader didn't answer directly. Instead, it gestured to the horizon, where a distant storm cloud seemed to form on the horizon. "It is not just a war between worlds. It is a battle for survival. The fate of all life is at stake, and you, Jacob, have a part to play in it." Jacob's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean? How am I supposed to stop it? I'm just one person." The BT alien leader's eyes seemed to glow brighter, the intensity of its gaze unwavering. "You are not just one person. You are the bridge, the key that will unlock the path to salvation or destruction. The choices you make will determine the outcome. But know this, the battle will be fought on many fronts, and you will need allies. The alien leader stepped back, its voice becoming more solemn. But time is short. You must begin your journey now. The war is already in motion. Jacob's heart raced again as he looked at the alien leader. He could feel the gravity of the situation pressing down on him, the knowledge that the future of his world, and possibly many others, was in his hands. As the sky darkened, and the first signs of the storm grew closer, Jacob realized there was no turning back. He had made his choice. Now he would have to face the consequences. The path ahead would not be easy, and the stakes were higher than he had ever imagined. The journey was just beginning. The end.